very much, Dennis. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I want to thank Steve Giroux and his staff here at the Middleport Family Health Center for the great work that they do. And really, we're here today, and I'm joined by my colleague, Mayor Julie Nadel, the mayor of the village of Middleport. And really, what we're talking about today are independent community pharmacies, pharmacies like Steve's Pharmacy here in the village of Middleport. And, you know, if it wasn't for these small business, independent community pharmacies, people would have to travel, particularly difficult for senior citizens, would have to travel to be able to acquire much needed medications. We should, Dennis and the Pharmacists Associations are to be commended for fighting for not just senior citizens, but for access to health care across the state of New York. When he talks about pharmacies closing, what he's talking about are the smaller, independent community pharmacies, which is going to make it much more difficult. And you know, sometimes when people are faced with a choice of either having their medications or having to travel to get them, and travel is impossible, they're not going to take their medications. They're going to end up in hospitals, they're going to end up in emergency rooms, and in the end, it's going to cost the state and the taxpayers more money. That's why it's so important that we send a message here. People like Mayor Nadel, myself, local government elected officials, independent business people, small business people, send a message to the governor. I spoke to Senator Skelos on my way over here today and told him that when we go back in special session, health care, particularly when it comes to pharmacy reimbursement, is one area that I consider to be off the table as far as any further cuts. Again, I want to commend Dennis, the Pharmacists Association of the State of New York. I can tell you from being in Albany for a few years now, there is nobody who lobbies harder. They come up every year with pharmacy students, a lot of pharmacy students from Western New York, from the Rochester area, from across the state, and really what they're fighting for is not so much for themselves, but really for senior citizens and their access, their ability to go to a local independent community pharmacy to access their drugs. You know, when a senior citizen, they'll go and they'll see their doctor, and they'll come back and they'll talk to the pharmacist, and then they'll go back to their doctor and ask them all the questions that the pharmacist asked them. So pharmacists are very important. They're a very important component of health care. You know, I remember my late mother, she passed away a few years ago, but I think the most trusted person that she had was Pete at the pharmacy in North Tonawanda, because whatever he said went. Me, I'd advise her, I was dead in the water as far as my advice. Whatever Pete said, that's what went. That's why pharmacists are so important, and that's why any further cuts to pharmacy, as far as I'm concerned, as far as Senator Skelos and the Senate majority are concerned, are off the table. Thank you again, Dennis, and thank you again, Steve, for your
Let me take a moment to introduce, thank you, Senator Maziarz, for putting patients first and the small businessmen first. I'd like to introduce now Steve Giroux. In addition to being the owner of this pharmacy we have here today, Middleport Family Health Center, Steve is also president of the National Community Pharmacists Association. Please allow Steve to say some words on behalf of pharmacists today.